talked with Derry, or I talked to Shannon at the end of the M.O.S.E.S last week. I was just touched by it, and the whole message kind of came very clearly to me. And so Derry asked me to open tonight. So I'm not going to try to re-preach Shannon's message or anything like that, but I will recap it real quick and some of what it meant to me at the end. And I guess one of the verses that we talked about was Proverbs 6:6, and Shannon talked about go to the ant. Just look at the ant. And it really kind of made me start thinking while I was sitting in the back of the room. Of course, I was sitting in the back of the room because I was told I needed to look at things differently. So maybe that had something to do with it. But 6:6, it goes on to say in 6:7 that it has no commander, it has no overseer or ruler, yet it stores its provisions in the summer and gathers its food at harvest in verse 8. And so then Shannon went on further. We ended up in a lot of different areas. He was talking about money. Somebody said money solves problems. I said no, money doesn't solve problems. Money answers problems, as we learned in Ecclesiastes 10:19, right? I don't know that that's exactly what it's saying, but we'll stick with that because we know that the love of money, right? The love of money is the root of all evil, right? Which is 1 Timothy 6:10. So I was very in tune with the verses last week. I don't know what it's totally not like me, but that goes back to the, I guess somebody was talking about spending, 30 minutes one week and then suddenly, or 3 minutes or 30 seconds turns into 30 minutes, turns into a lot more of understanding. But I guess, I was talking to Derry on Friday, and I was talking about that we all live in the same worlds and we all have the same types of things that go on around us. And I was actually in Matthew 7:24, right?
Yes.
And it was really something that kind of stood out to me too, that I was looking at and attaching to the what Shannon was talking about last week, which comes back to rest, which I'll get to. But in Matthew 7:24, it says, "Therefore, everyone who hears the words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who builds his house on the rock." Right? And if we skip down to verse 26, it says, "But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice, like a foolish man who built his house on sand." In verse 25, we go back. This is where we're living that same life. We're all living in the same life, right? And I'll pull this together in a second. But it says, "The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against the house, yet it did not fall, because its foundation was on rock." And the same person who was more foolish in building his house on sand had the same thing happen. It says, "The rain came down, the stream rose, the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell with a great crash." And in general, when I read that, when I think about it, everyone lives in the same life. We all have the same problems with bills and money and all the issues in marriage and children and just the struggles that we face in life. But it's how we live our life that makes us different. And it's not always very clear when we're making the right decisions, right? When we are being wise and not foolish, right? When we're building our house on rock and not sand, it's always clear how that impacts us right now and today, right? But through the storm, through life, I think it becomes more clear on how it impacts us. So, when we come back to the ant is working hard all the time, right? And he's doing the right things all the time, just so that he can survive, just so that he can be an ant. And when we talk about when we're not doing the right things and when we're not working hard, right, it promotes us into kind of a phase of laziness, right? And laziness, in my opinion, projects us into poverty. And we're talking about money last week, and not all poverty is about money, but laziness projects us into poverty, and poverty is one of the things that prevents us from rest. And that's what Shannon's message was coming down to last week, was rest.
Amen.
We have to rest, and it's clear, that God gave us the Sabbath so that we can rest, right? And if we're doing the right things and we're living life, right, and we're preparing as the ant did, that we're going to have that rest. So without re-preaching that message, so I apologize if that's what you took that as, but I just want to say that, if we're living our lives the right way and we're working hard like the ant, right, that we won't be in poverty and we'll be allowed to rest, and things are just much more simpler.
Amen.
That's what I had to.
Amen.
Amen. Awesome.
I had something that, I don't know, I guess came on my spirit Sunday, like really heavy. And all of a sudden, all these different little pieces of things that I had heard out of different people's mouths. And again, something Shannon said, something LaDonna had said, and something clear back to when I started getting more comfortable into the worship team. And something about perspectives. Sunday morning in church, as we were sitting there, you know, we always try to hurry and get there early enough when you're on the worship team. You're there plenty early to save seats wherever you want to sit, so that's kind of like a bonus. But and most people don't like to sit in the front when they do things. But for Jeff and I, ever since we started coming, and I think I need to credit Shannon and LaDonna for it, but we've always wanted to sit in front. Always, always. And we make a joke because Jeff is very ADD, and so sitting in front is very good for him. But something occurred to me as I was sitting there Sunday morning, and I was really into the message, and you know, we had just got finished singing, and when you're in front of everybody and you're singing, sometimes something will catch your attention, and it's really hard, whatever it is that you get pulled into or focused on when you're looking at things, where your mind tends to lead you and what you start to hear and how you get kind of pulled off track from the message that you're trying to pay attention to. And when I see everybody Sunday morning, you know, I see, like when I see Mike and Amanda walk in the door on Sundays, or just faces that you recognize, and they just make you feel good. And you're like, ah, these are my people, this is my place, you know. But Shannon made a comment on the Wednesday nights when we were in the sanctuary, just worshiping, about standing behind everybody, and just how he finds great worship for himself, watching other people worship, and how, you know, he feels good being in the back, behind everything. And so I got to thinking about where people sit, and I think we get really accustomed to our ways and things. And one thing that I have to say about specifically our M.O.S.E.S group is that as Christians, we should walk so proudly at where we are today, and how, I mean, just if you think about what's changed in your life as opposed to the first time you stepped foot in this room. I mean, for Jeff and I, we had no idea. We were here to, you know, pray about making money. We had no idea what God really had in store for us and the great people we were going to meet, but all the faces that I see and hear are because I've seen you all come in this door. I've talked to everybody. I get to know everybody. And I think we get so set in our ways, we sit in the same place every Sunday in church. And I said, you know, we need to change our perspectives. As Christians, I think it's really important to make sure that you're mixing things up in your life, because it's not about bringing exactly where you are and what you have to tell people about to them. It's about meeting them where they're at. And that's how you reach other Christians. And I think, you know, you get in your car, I know mine's got programmed seats. If my seat is slightly off, it's uncomfortable. And it's hard to even drive. But I think as a Christian, it's like a privilege to be uncomfortable.
Amen.
So I want to encourage everybody to get uncomfortable and change your perspective, and as small as sitting in different places, because even, you know, we're sitting in the back of the room accidentally last week because we were running late, and it was like a totally different atmosphere, because you have to pay attention, you know, and that's on you. You know, you got to try to pay attention because there's all kinds of little things going on. But if everything in life were right in front of you, it would make things so much easier. But as a Christian, life is always in front of you, and if we don't train ourselves to see everything in all our different perspectives and learn different things, how are we going to meet people where they're at?
Amen.
Wow.
Amen.
So I just wanted to
Great
share.
word.
Great example of that. This draws my attention Sunday. So Monday, I'm at a Monday night function. A company called Highspeako here in town was having a thing at one of the hotels. And a guy comes up to me and says, "Hey, I know you." And I said, "Really? Where from?" He goes, "We go to the same church."
You hear what I'm going to share?
And so he says, "Yeah, we go to the same church." I said, "Really? How long have you been going there?" He goes, "About a year."
Wow.
After we came back from Africa, I said, "Well, great." He goes, "Yeah, I've been to M.O.S.E.S a few times as well." perspective is, sometimes you don't even know what's going on around you.
I want to add one last thing
That's
too.
funny.
That's funny.
Wow.
I think goes along with it, really funny, and I actually tied it all into Jeff when Jeff told me about that. I said, when I started, when my new manager came on at work, one of the things that she said was, in our manager's meeting was, don't ever park in the same place when you come into work. Number one, as management, you're there all the time, other people see your patterns and get used to, exactly where you are, what you do, different things, if you constantly do the same things and where you park. But the other reason is, wherever you work, you should be proud of where you work, and this is where and everybody's responsible. So if every day you walk in the same door from the same parking place and walk past the same trash receptacle or this, pretty soon you become blinded by anything and you don't see the trash that needs picked up or the stuff that's on the counter over here that nobody ever wipes off, or all those little things. So you start missing things that make your world beautiful around you. So,
Wow, it's good.
anyway, that's all.
Amen.